Oh hey there, AP students. In this video, we're going to be talking about the creation of the OSS, in particular counterintelligence. Now, if you're ready to get those brain cows...
Like spies?
Yes, little Leah likes spies. Now, before we really analyze the effects that counterintelligence had on World War II, there's some terms you should know first.
First is OSS, also known as Office of Strategic Services. This we will define much more right after this. X-2 is the counterintelligence branch of the OSS. CEAs are controlled enemy agents. These are what we commonly today know as double agents. These people previously worked for the enemy, in our case the Axis powers, and then later flip to the American side, but still act as though they work for the Axis powers. Abwehr is German intelligence, and finally MI5 is British intelligence.
Now that we have that information, we need to start with the creation of the OSS. The creation of the OSS resulted from one of the largest events in U.S. history, the attack on Pearl Harbor. The attack on Pearl Harbor showed that the previous intelligence put in place by the United States had failed. This led to the government instituting the OSS, or the Office of Strategic Services, led by ex-military agent William J. Donovan.
Donovan was a decorated military leader with the Medal of Honor, an esteemed lawyer, and a diplomat. Donovan saw how much work was needed, so he created 12 branches of the OSS, one of which was the creation of X-2, counterintelligence.
X-2 had a bit of a rocky start. Aided by German intelligence agency MI5, they taught X-2 everything they needed to know about decoding Enigma, a German intelligence code, gaining CEAs, and how to run most effectively. For the first half of this mutually beneficial relationship, the British kept as much information about missions away from X-2 as possible. They didn't want the US to have too much information if something went awry. This all changed for one purpose: D-Day. With the preparations for D-Day, the OSS requested more personnel and more information. This was the first time that X-2 had been given enough clearance for more information, more personnel, and even more resources. This opened the door for X-2 to have a much bigger purpose within World War II. Now what we've all wanted to talk about: spies.
Yay!
The most documented case of a CEA, or double agent, is the case Dragamon. Dragamon is the name given to an American-turned-German agent, Juan Frutos.
Frutos was a spy previously working for Abwehr. X-2 discovered him when they flipped his handler, Karl Ettel, to the Allies' side. They caught Frutos, and he quickly confessed and switched to working for X-2. After being deemed safe, they quickly sent him back in France, where he had been stationed for Abwehr before they got suspicious. They gave him the codename Dragamon.
Before he'd flipped to an agent for X-2, he worked radio transmissions for Germans, gaining and relaying information. X-2 had him continue to tell reliable information to Abwehr, gaining trust while they arrested the other two German agents in the area, keeping Frutos safe. For the first half of Frutos' missions, he was just tasked with telling Abwehr what X-2 wanted them to know, not telling them any faulty information. Frutos' first time being authorized to give faulty information was during the Battle of the Bulge.
Frutos was told to pass faulty information about the submarine torpedoes being used in the Battle of the Bulge. Other Allied CEAs verified this information, and it helped the Allies win the battle.
Frutos remained a reliable source of information for Germans for the rest of the war. However, more than just Frutos worked behind enemy lines. Around 15 other CEAs would alert X-2 of enemy agents crossing over into Allied land. X-2 would promptly arrest them, keeping counterintelligence webs set up. Now, the last thing we have to talk about is women's role in X-2. Women were reasonably involved and recruited in X-2 as gatherers of information and translators of code. One of the most popular women spies we have account of is Betty Ann Lussier.
Betty grew up flying planes with her dad and sister. She gained her pilot's license and was waiting to be married to her fiancé. In the beginning of the war, her fiancé passed away, and her sister was recruited to join X-2. Betty was stationed in many places throughout her career, such as Algeria, Italy, Sicily, and France.
Betty's assignment was to gain and decode German intelligence messages and report them back to headquarters. Betty also aided in setting up spy networks and giving misinformation. At one point in her career, she was barred from the French front, and to get back on the line, she flirted with a pilot saying she was a radio transmitter, and they needed her there. That's all you need to know about X-2 and the impact of counterintelligence in World War II. Thanks for watching, and in Heimler, if you see this, you saved my grade this year. Thank you so much. Leah, out.